G'day, listeners. Today we're joined by Felix Dance. He's a former candidate for the Socialist Alliance. Lots to talk about ahead, including overthrowing capitalism, some of the lessons we could learn from different military alliances, internationalism.
I think, we'll cover a lot.
Lots to discuss. Okay, let's go. Felix, good to have you here today. First, I got to correct some things. I was telling people previously that you were from the big socialists, but so sorry to disappoint.
That's okay. Many people make that mistake.
There's been another split in the socialists.
It does happen a lot. Yep.
Well, people might be familiar from the Socialist Alliance. Recently in the federal election, Sue Bolton, for instance, was running for Wills against me. A respectable 9%, if I recall correctly.
Well, it started off as 9. It's when the chips dropped, it was 8.02.
Oh, okay.
Still pretty respectable.
Yeah,
it's actually it exceeded our expectations, so we're very happy with that result.
Because it was, so previously in Wills, it was, I think Sue might have got 6 or so, and there was the Vic Socialists running separately. Versus this time they combined.
Yeah. I mean, like previously, Sue got, I think it was about 3.6% in the previous, but that was, going alongside the big socialist candidate who got around 3%. So even combined, we've actually, the socialist vote has actually gone up in Wills. So very happy about that.
What area does Wills cover? Just for
it's if you know Mary Beck in terms of the local council, but it's basically Wills. It's expanded a little bit in the most recent election, and it's all the way down to North Fitzroy, includes Carlton, and then Brunswick's, Coburg's.
Okay.
Between the creeks, Mary Creek, Mooney Ponds Creek, all the way up to the Ring Road. Yeah. So quite a big area, really.
When I was hyping up who was going to be here today, I happened to bump into earlier today our friend Jay, our local councillor.
Oh, yeah.
I said, we're going to have our first socialist on. He said, oh, but you've had me on. I thought, well, you know what I mean. But actually, how would you clarify, the various left-wing parties? I would regard Fusion as pretty left-wing as well. How do you see your outlook as, fundamentally different to the Greens, for instance?
Well, I think the absolute central difference between us and the Greens is that we reject capitalism. The Greens, they have a lot of their policies are, we support, we think they're good, and they would make things better, society better. They would make things better for working class people and communities out there. And for workers, they've actually got a surprisingly good set of worker policies that, like we like to see. But fundamentally, the difference is the Greens are trying to make capitalism as it exists in our society better, fairer, more equal, rounding off the sharp edges.
I see.
We reject capitalism. We think that there is a completely better society that's possible, a society that would replace capitalism with socialism.
well, assuming we've actually got capitalism at the moment.
Well, that's an interesting one. Okay.
There is actually very strong socialism going on for those who receive welfare.
Well, that is it.
There is corporate welfare, right?
Corporate welfare.
Well, again, I said welfare. You didn't ask me what welfare. So
yeah. Well, as Bernie Sanders says,
yeah, welfare is welfare. Right?
Welfare for the very
absolutely.
Rich.
So
private individualism.
I'm happy to we'll call it something else, and we say let's just scrap welfare totally, right? You start with that premise, and then we can say let's build. Because if we did that, capitalism will exist as the first point in call, right? In some essence, because right now it doesn't exist.
Well, it is still capitalism because capitalism is the ruler of society. Like, it calls the shots. It's not just in terms of, who gets what resources, although that is a big part of it. It's who is in control.
Sure, but it's almost like, anyone can now say, and people are saying that, Andrews, former premier, had communism running during lockdown. You can appropriate different terms. I'm just saying.
I know, but that is a very a lot of right-wing people like to use.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's what my point. That you can adopt and appropriate terms. So I'm just saying is what we have now is not capitalism. So to say like you're anti-capitalism now, which I'm in favour. I'm not against what you're advocating. I'm just saying we're not actually living true capitalism.
Well, I would disagree with you. It is capitalism, and the thing I think that I mean, there are two aspects of why you might say that it's not capitalism. One of them is the corporate welfare that you talk about, which is it is a type of capitalism. That's crony capitalism. It's using the resources of the state in order to prop up, individual firms and corporations that, that's capital, certain leaders within.
Sure, but we can intellectualize it to the nth degree and say, okay, this is just neoliberalist version of it, which is a form of capitalism, etc.
Yeah.
So then, get into that intellectual perspective, the people that ideally you're trying to collectively bring on board, that narrative in terms of reference loses for them the argument.
The thing is, I think we broadly agree on this
100%.
point, because crony capitalism is terrible. Whether like cronyism
Correct.
is a bad thing.
So
and it's favouring certain corporations, which we would disagree with fundamentally because we don't want to favour corporations in general. But even within the capitalist system working, it's not particularly good in terms of,
Yes.
There's
There's monopolies. They form
monopolies, which is something that Karl Marx did talk about, the nature of capitalism to trend towards monopoly, and something.
All I guess I'm saying is maybe the point's being lost here is that by using the term capitalism instead of actually focusing on what is that going on, and that is it is the manipulating the market to have welfare for the rich, and going back to the root cause in at a very simplistic argument, it loses the point of what we're actually trying to do, and that is change. Another way you're suggesting then up there, so I'll put the words in my mouth, that it goes back to almost like a Greens version of how do you soften the current situation.
Yeah, I mean, the system of capitalism in all of its forms is something that we would reject. And I mean, I know, we could probably talk a lot about the idea that we're not living under capitalism because it's a type of cronyism. But I mean, we don't as socialists, we reject all forms of class society, of which that's a type. But I think conceiving of our society at the moment as a capitalist one does allow you to analyse it, I think, quite effectively.
I wonder, actually, going on this point of the class warfare, I guess, so initially it was workers versus owners, was it?
Well, what do you mean by initially, though?
Oh, Karl Marx, wasn't the way he was, And so, I guess, especially, as we have more automation in our society, I see it the same as unions, are they always fighting the last battle? Do we need workers anymore? And are unions preventing a move towards automation? Does the socialist philosophy need to be updated slightly to embrace robots?
I think that we are living in an era where automation is becoming, there's more and more automation. But I actually think it's fundamentally not all that different to the society that Karl Marx was describing, where the Industrial Revolution was in full swing. That was being automated probably at a far greater scale than it is at the moment. People were coming in from farms where they're doing manual labor. They were doing small scale, the industrial processes they had at the time were quite limited because they had limited technology. The Industrial Revolution brought these huge machines, milling machines, looms, steam power. That was automation on a scale never conceived of in the history of humanity. And that's the society that Karl Marx was describing.
And so I think the other point, Owen, you're also discussing the power of unions, as though Australia in this instance is so unionised and they have a major impact on how much they're materially impacting the growth of AI.
Although these unions themselves, the prevalence of unions has gone significantly down.
That's my point. That's my point. That's my point. Oh, wow. That's my point. The fact that this thing keeps being thrown out in the media, and every time something's happening, but the unions are fighting. They've destroyed the unions here to this point where they're immaterial in what the corporations are doing.
They are immaterial. They are immaterial. It's a very pessimistic view.
And they've even set up unions who actually work for the corporations. Like recently when the workers, I think it was our Coles, were going on strike. They even spoke about it. On the news, I saw it, I think it was on the ABC News, where they spoke about two unions. There was, let's say, the workers one, and one that was actually set up and worked for the company.
Oh, I see, like a puppet. For retail, I've heard there's...
The SDA is, the Shop Distributors Association. I think it's one of the most right-wing and conservative unions, and they really... I'm happy to say they don't represent their workers.
No, they said that on the news, which to say that on the news... they're going effectively against they're going against their masters and lords to say that in some regard, right? Because they are.
Oh, sorry. To your point, you made a claim that the unions are sort of powerless now.
But not just that, they're using that in arguments like that, statements like that, to still perpetuate the myth that it's that class of people that are preventing productivity and everything else. It's not.
They're using very old school arguments. I think the unions aren't powerless. Like I think
I said material impact.
Well,
I mean, they could do a lot more by using the power that they have and solidarity with each other, and also by.
Don't get me wrong. I think everyone should be unionised, and because, like when Kennett brought in the rules here that said, no, you can't strike unless I give you permission to. Fuck that.
Absolutely.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
Right? Who are you to tell me if I withdraw my labour, to use the terms of reference that we're using here, I cannot do that because I have to bequeath to what you tell me is right or wrong.
That's right.
And everyone,
that's a level of authoritarianism where you have the power of the state and big business. And there's nothing to countervail them. People say,
what do I say in every podcast that we have? You get the government you deserve. And we said, okay.
If you don't protest,
protest, you need civil disobedience when that happens.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say that you deserve a certain government when really it takes a collective action to fight against it.
That's what I'm saying. You get it wasn't a term at any singular point. Where we are now is as a consequence of what we've allowed it to be.
Yeah, it is. Where we are now is definitely a consequence of the decline of unionism since the 1970s, basically.
I would, I guess it does seem believable that unions don't have as much power as before. But if we think of trains, for instance, I grew up in Sydney. There's a slow move towards autonomous trains. But I think at the moment, I'm pretty sure there's required to be a human train driver on the train, just in case, which seems, outrageous wastage.
I don't think that it's the unions that are preventing. It's a significant amount of infrastructure development that you'd need in order to have autonomous trains.
Well, but they already existed, and they were already running autonomously. And then then these humans got put on the autonomous train
because also on the safety reasons.
Well, however they justify it, these people are just not needed. I guess it's probably worth mentioning as well. I studied robotics. I love robots, and don't want to see them being undermined like this.
As opposed to potentially someone being hurt on the train.
Well, but
and there is.
So you're.
But
you know what you're advocating
these
here?
people can't even do anything.
No. But you know what you're actually advocating. So let's assume there is low probability and unlikelihood, but there is a chance because of the possibility.
These people wouldn't even.
No. Just listen to what I'm saying. So even if the likelihood and possibility is low, so the consequences maybe not be high, but the possibility exists, right? We accept that of a human, something happening to them.
Okay,
we just accept that as a premise.
Let's say,
as opposed to the feelings of nothing, you're advocating for the nothing over the possible.
Well, but here in your scenario, you're saying that the human could even help. Let's say something's going wrong when this,
they could stop it.
They wouldn't even understand the system. They would just be completely powered.
Humans are operating the train system at the moment, and it seems to work quite well.
Have you not seen Terminator?
But can you imagine? You're in front of this massive control panel of hieroglyphics and alien symbols, and then the computer beeps.
You pour a glass of water on. I think.
Are you talking about the train drivers themselves in the train? Or you're talking about operators in a control?
I'm talking about the humans on an autonomous train. I'm saying,
but it's not autonomous anymore.
I guess, it's not autonomous because there's a human.
Now there you go.
Yeah. But I'm saying if right from the start, it was built to be autonomous and then you just shove in a human there afterwards, it would be like looking at the alien control panel. How do I fix this?
Maybe. I really don't think that the biggest problem with Melbourne's public transport network is the presence of drivers in the trains, in terms of efficiency.
I think it's corruption.
Yeah.
It's part of that because there are, construction companies or whatnot do have a lot of sway with it.
Well, maybe we should block KPMG to do a review.
Was that the Deloitte? Yeah.
Deloitte. Maybe they could tell both sides what's going on.
We covered on the last episode the Deloitte palming off their work to ChatGPT. There's also that one about the you're talking about the Google scandal.
Which one?
The scandal with Google. They were telling Google how to obey the new tax laws that they were creating.
That's a pretty classic example of corruption. Everyone's in bed with each other at the top levels, the consultants, the government departments and the corporations.
Well, but at least we've seen a seismic change recently with Albanese.
Of course, seismic.
No,
Absolutely.
because he came out
Completely
and
changed.
he said, you know what? I'm going to stamp out anti-Islamic phobia.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, and, you know, I'm going to get rid of...
the anti-Semitism, especially, yeah.
No, the first place he got anti-Islamic phobia.
That was the first person,
and he got,
yeah.
and he got rid of the Israeli ambassador for writing some graffiti on a mosque recently. And he brought out the ASIO guy and said, yeah, we discovered this was true. And all you people that marched, you know, which we're not talking about, you know, that's what we've done. So I was like,
I hear what you're saying.
well done, Elbow.
I'm picking this up.
Well done, Elbow. You know,
On him, yeah. He does some things. Yeah.
shit, what happened there? So, did I say something there?
Yeah. I think we're all thinking it.
Yeah. What a complete...
I wonder actually, stepping back a bit, Felix, can you tell us, you know, what radicalized you? What
This is radical.
Yeah, well, I joined Socialist Alliance when I was in high school, and that was actually in the wake of the September 11 protests in 2000. You remember the anti-globalization protests at the World Economic Forum at
Oh,
Trent?
I thought, did we have?
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was huge. Shut the whole thing down like they couldn't get in or out. It was so inspiring.
Sorry, who was the protest against? The globalists?
Well, yeah, it was World Economic Forum, so it was like a big
Yeah.
happening of all the biggest corporations.
And that was
around the
happening in
world.
Melbourne, okay.
Yeah, and it was part of a wave. Do you remember? I'm not sure how old you are, but there was a huge wave of anti-globalization protests back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Seattle, Genoa.
Occupy Wall Street would have been
That was
a bit later, but yeah.
like 12 years later.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, it was huge, and of course,
But you were still a student at the time.
I was still a student, yeah, and I got so inspired by that, and I jumped on the organising committee of M1, which is a big follow-up protest. I mean, all this stuff has gotten ever since the other September the 11th happened. It just disappeared, but that really radicalised me, and I joined Resistance, which is the student, like the youth wing of...
Yeah, you might want to see a tip of that when you say, I got radicalised after September 11th. Depending which airport you're at.
Yeah.
They might jump-
F11 they called it, but it's kind of an unfortunate date.
Yes.
But it's still, every time I hear September the 11th, even now I still think
Yes.
F11.
Yes.
But yeah, and I sort of drifted away a little bit after uni and things. And I sort of worked all over the country. I'm a civil engineer. Worked on big construction projects, mainly big transport projects and things, like lots of railways and things like that.
Yeah, cool.
It's actually, I think, I did a huge bike ride from Darwin to Melbourne, and I had a lot of time to think, months, just in my own head. And it was around the time that Donald Trump was getting elected. And
Oh, okay.
there was Jeremy Corbyn, all of this sort of stuff was happening.
He was leading the Brexit thing, wasn't he?
It was the other. He was leading the Labour
There's
Party.
Labour, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. He was a big anti-Semite and they dumped him.
But yeah, entirely untrue.
No, that was like I was visiting.
That was the fear.
No,
yeah.
I visited London in 2018. I remember staying with a mate there, and the first thing he told me about is, "Oh yeah, the big anti-Semite." I'm like, "What?"
People bought this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they-
it was a big speed campaign,
yeah.
and it was quite effective.
Yeah.
I think people learned a lot of lessons from that. But yeah, I thought, what am I doing? I believe in all this stuff. I've never given up my socialist politics, but I just thought, I got disillusioned. But then I realized, I'm just getting sort of dispirited and angry on the sidelines without doing anything. Get organized, join a party, join with people who want to basically overthrow the system, bring in something that's just and equal for everybody. And if you work towards that, it's actually, it feels good. It feels really, it's like cathartic's probably the wrong word, but like of all the evils that are happening in the world, it just feels I'm doing what I can.
Yeah. I guess being part of the solution,
exactly.
rather than part of the problem.
Yeah, and I get so much energy, social energy, moral energy, just from being part of activism, politics. Just like and engaging with everybody, people in the community, just trying to help people.
Well, the Socialist Party thought of changing their uniforms more like the Fusion Party, like adding a bit more flair and colour.
You might be thinking, especially of the Vic Socialists. They love wearing black.
Yeah,
the website is all black. It's,
I mean, that's a brand.
It's a brand.
versus
Recognizable.
thankfully, I guess the most
You
creative
do.
control over Fusion. Many people are giving me feedback about it. They don't like. I have some AI images on the website, and people keen to tell me their opinions. about that. I'm in the middle of changing it, but it would be handy to have a graphic designer though.
Oh, what about a fact checker? I thought we were getting a fact checker.
Yeah. Oh well, that would be a Fusion expense.
Oh,
the graphic.
I got to admit, I do kind of see your vibe in the Fusion branding. I can picture it. And as soon as I saw you on the polling booth, which is the first time that I saw you,
I thought you gave up that job.
Which
I just thought this guy is Fusion.
yeah. It's actually I think we only like actually met each other at the Green Left Comedy debate.
Yeah. We were both very focused on talking to people, and I did mean to introduce myself, but I could tell that you were in the zone.
Oh no, I should mention, by the way, when we were talking before about getting involved in politics, I guess many people, they're very hesitant. They think it means turning up and shouting in a megaphone. Like, no, there's plenty of like more friendly opportunities as well. Yeah, like
I think elections are great. Like, we in Socialist Alliance, we believe that we have formal democracy, but elections aren't the way to change fundamentally society.
Do you want to tell us how?
Yeah, well, sure. But because basically we have the power of corporations and capitalism, which work together with the state in order to enforce the status quo and the ruling class, is they're in bed with the interests of the ruling class. And the counteractive to that is the fact that we have the vast majority of people, workers, who basically build things and create the society that we live in. They're on the other side. They're the victims of the class society that we live in. And by getting together, organising through unions, but also through demonstrating our collective power, we can provide a counterbalance to the power of corporations in the state.
If it's with, say, the power of the unions, and I'll just bring an argument here, and say, okay, through the unions, let's exercise our collective power.
Yeah.
Aren't you, not you, but the royal you, working within the capitalist system to overthrow it, which is no different to what the Greens are proposing?
It's, I think that the difference is that the Greens like to use the institutions that currently exist under capitalism.
Some of the unions.
They're not using the institutions because they have their kind of a separate set of institutions where they come together to fight for their rights as workers, as individuals.
Yeah, but still, what are the unions going to do? They're still going to be within that same means of production and everything. So what are they actually going to implement once they take control of it?
Yeah, well, I mean,
in
the short term, the things that unions can do is to fight for their rights. And they don't use the ballot box, like through the AEC. And they don't, petition the government and write, nice letters hoping that that they do is they fight for their rights. They stop production in their factory. Yeah. They picket a factory, and they can stand up for themselves, and it can become unprofitable and very inconvenient for bosses, and they'll make concessions. Sure. That's the short term.
That's the short term, but they're still operating within the means of the same system. The same system.
That's right.
You're just pulling different levers and pressing different buttons within the same system. So
we're
not calling for a complete revolution here.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we do believe we're a revolutionary party.
Correct. That's what I'm asking for. So I understand how you can do.
You're actually talking about something that was a big discussion back in the 19th century, which is like economism, which is the idea that just by fighting for individual rights, workers getting together on the shop floor, demanding rights, making conditions better, that's sort of delaying the revolution because, once workers are under better conditions, they'll have less incentive to fight for revolution. I think that's kind of the gist of what you're saying.
No. I understand that's right. I'm trying to understand the point about, the criticism that was, say, even levied at the Greens, which I'm not disagreeing with any of that, how that is different to the point about, sure, let's fight for our rights. And just because, let's say the Greens may advocate and get concessions to say, instead of paying this person $25 an hour, we've now fought for your rights and we're giving them $26 an hour. They've won a concession there, as opposed to the unions saying, we're going to go on strike and we're going to get you your $25, $50 an hour. They're just using different mechanisms within the system.
I think that it's the power of workers getting together, fighting for their rights, is what actually puts pressure on corporations to provide concessions, working conditions and whatnot. Like, the alternative to that, working within the system, is to write nice letters, to vote once every 3.5 years.
All the petitions,
and that you're not exercising any power, so you won't be listened to. Like, there's no threat to profitability when you do that. And, at the moment, we live in a society in which there are two factions of the ruling class, which are broadly Labor and Liberal.
I
And
don't
they're
disagree.
both on the opposite side.
No, totally.
Word.
There is no. I don't subscribe to any political system here, right? For me, it's corruption 101. Australia's the most corrupt country in the world because at least, and
It's quite a claim.
No,
but
no,
go on,
I'll qualify this because we can spot corruption in India, in Jakarta, anywhere else, right? You have to graft to survive everywhere. Here they do it so subvertly, and they do it in front of our eyes.
People don't notice you're saying.
Yeah, it's like, Barnaby Joyce and so forth.
The water one,
out there. Like that is stuff so openly there.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, but that's the way it is.
The Paladin affairs.
Everything. You should have been running as opposition leader to become prime minister. He should be locked up.
Yeah.
But it's like, but you know what? We've got this secret corruption inquiry that we do, but which we can't announce it.
Yeah.
They even have the corruption inquiry, but it can't be broadcast. So then it's like, it's done. I will tell you if there's anything wrong. It's like they're waving their own Democratic Republic of Congo flag to say, trust us. We're a democracy. We're a republic. We're a fucking dictator behind here. They've got their own little puppet show.
I got to say that the narrative that's told in Western countries, and very particularly Australia, is extremely powerful.
Yeah,
and
we can export how to be corrupt to these other countries. That should be Australia's biggest export. Like, you guys do it, but you're fucking stupid at it. ScoMo should do the roadshow, right? But he wasn't even the best. Like, even Albanese is he's untouchable right
I'd
now.
have to say with you, who's the guy, the red-faced drunkard?
Oh, Barnaby.
Yeah, he seems to be the worst. Yeah.
he's both overt for sure. Like,
He even fucks these staffers, right?
That's right.
Who would fuck Barnaby and he still got away with it?
and there are a lot of little petty corruption scandals. All allegations, here, etc. But things like re-roosing the Inland Rail project so that he would profit from his own property.
Okay, I didn't hear about that.
There's
allegedly.
Well, yeah, actually, when you were saying about the petitions and that, I was thinking about Labor in particular. They love promoting that idea about we'll listen to you. Just send a letter to your local MP. They'll just give me lip service and pretend to be taking action. Yeah, you really have to be fighting.
Hold on, but they gave us Q&A for so long to sit our
the bad show.
Isn't it a shame? Yeah, that show, it seemed as though it had potential. Yeah, although
it had potential to become something in 10 years time.
Yeah, but actually on that note, that's Q&A, the sorts of people who would want to listen to that. Peter and I are hoping to achieve something similar with our podcast.
Reimagined.
So I should mention, by the way, viewers, if you have anyone in mind who you think would, do well here, please, send them along. Anyway. Back to we were saying Labor and that paying lip service. And then would you say as well, Peter, to your point of how they get away with the corruption? I think one of the major problems in Australia at the moment is, the apathy amongst voters. They think that, governing will sort of, sort itself out. Anybody can do it. Do I really need to pay attention when I'm voting?
I mean, I do think that the horizon of what's under discussion, what is debatable in our society.
Yeah, the open window.
Well, I guess so. But it's so narrow at the moment that a lot of people just think, this system can't solve any of my problems. They'll argue and debate about stuff that I don't care about, with, the cost of living, the squeezing that I have, the fact that my job conditions are getting worse and worse, and my income relative to what I can spend is, going through the roof. I mean, sorry, the other way around. But, in what way does this benefit me? All this talk about, changing, the tiny stuff that they do. It's very limited what's debated in Parliament, and I don't think people really believe that it's ultimately going to help them. And I think that is part of the system that we live in, where you can tweak it here and there, but it's because it's controlled by capitalism. They're only willing to look within a narrow range.
Yeah, and I think and the other thing that's really disillusioned people is they realise that the media that was serving them up until recently doesn't serve them anymore, right?
Absolutely.
So
So the media's not serving the politicians.
no, us as the public, right? Because they thought for a long time that what they saw on TV was the truth.
Yeah.
Right. And now and I'm calling it again, the Israel-Palestine thing has actually demonstrated that the media has been used just to push a particular agenda. Because
I'm very glad that you brought this up. It's been eye-opening.
No, because now everyone is like, you know what? I never really got when my partner said, they were gaslighting me. But now I fucking get
Absolutely. We're all
fucking
being
get
gaslit,
it.
and we can all see
And
it.
now it's like, no matter what they hit on the news now, everyone's like, no, mate, I got it. I fucking get it.
Yeah.
You guys have been fucking bullshitting us for so long. I don't want to hear it again. And that's it.
We all have social media. We get our own sources of information. You know, like, I know that Twitter is much maligned, but
even like the Colbert Report, right? Sorry, Stephen Colbert, The Late Show. Like he got sacked pretty much
that's right, a few weeks back,
for Trump, saying stuff on Trump. So they got rid of him because they needed to get, like everyone's seeing now how it all, the dots just falling down for people who had no political conscience.
Yeah.
Right? They're seeing now how the media actually works and who they work for.
I
And
know,
that's
the skeleton is bare. We can see the mechanism.
And like even the ABC, right? They talk about their stuff, and it's like they had a lady on the other day who was to interview because they wanted to march across the Brisbane Bridge, right? And the judge just said, no, you can't.
Oh, they were marching about Palestine.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And the judge said, no, you can't for safety reasons, blah, blah. So they had her on to interview her. And she cleverly found an on-ramp to talk about how the ABC has been suppressing. They shit themselves. They'll say, no, you need to fact check yourself now. And they had the
ABC has been terrible.
Yeah, they
just take any Israeli talking point. They just straight from the IDF and they repeat it as fact and everything.
And they had that pseudo, I don't know what her background is, ethnic one that does the weekend news. And she was like, no, you need to fact check yourself. But she got it pointed across because you took the bait and you're fucking full of shit. And then not even anyone out can trust the ABC, if they ever did, right? They've been exposed.
Yeah. It's a shame that whenever I have run for elections, I always get emails from this group, friends of the ABC. I guess they probably contacted you as well.
Probably not so much. No, I know about them. And I don't think we're on their radar.
Well, in the past, like the ABC was set up, for a good purpose. Having a news organization that is going to get its funding, no matter what they say, is useful. But unfortunately, they've become biased, especially with Ida Buttrose.
Absolutely. I mean, it's co-opted, and you can see that by the threats that are made by government ministers.
And then, so I had to tell these people, I'm friends of, like the ABC in the past, but the current ABC, no, I can't stand them. And like when I was running in Aston, for instance, the 7:30 report, they were running a report that said twice. It said both parties. There were 5 candidates. They keep saying both parties.
The best person I've ever seen in the last, maybe 5-6 years about where the ABC was the famous Lee Sayers, right? The way she would interview the Allen people versus Labor, pre-elections, with ScoMo and stuff. Like she was like the litmus test about where the ABC was going. But everyone sort of lauded her as like this great sort of presenter and journalist. But if you'd watch her presentations, like the way she interviewed, like I remember at the time Abbott and that versus even some of the Labor individuals, like
it is interesting. I have seen that.
Shorten. She would like nail them, but the other ones would be like, nail me anytime you want.
Right. I know there are a lot of Lee Sayers fans out there. So. I
don't care about him.
I grew up watching the ABC, and I have a lot of fondness for it. And I wish that it was a great, strong institution that was fearless, totally independent from the government, and did great reporting. But I think that I'm not sure whether my views have changed, and I've had my eyes opened, or the institution of the ABC is degraded. But I can't look at it the same way these days, and especially during the Palestine, it's unwatchable.
It was actually one of the proposals, I forget when I proposed it, but one of Fusion's policies was to fund not just the ABC and SBS, but also Al Jazeera, potentially foreign news organisations.
What about Green Left?
Oh, Peter, can you grab the paper? This comes out, every week, does it?
It's every fortnight, but it's double the size, so we've got the small beef in it. It's our fortnightly publication. So Green Left is, we're not, Socialist Alliance and Green Left are independent, like they're independent with each other.
Podcast to do.
But, we are closely related, and Socialist Alliance gets a page in each issue to talk about
Interesting.
what the issue of the day is. It's not a party newspaper, so it's like we get contributors from all over the country, all over the world. Terrific reporting. I read it cover to cover every fortnight.
Yeah, it's something very important to do. I guess part of a political movement, you have to have that ongoing presence. It's that's one of the things I noticed after the when I was, let's call it, reminiscing after the Wills election. Yeah, well, considering, do I just give up on politics? These people, do they sort of want saving, if that's a way to put it?
I think that attitude, the idea that you can, that everyone there is, you come in and you save people. I think that's
it's
the
very
way.
arrogant.
It's what we like to do, Socialist Alliance and Green Left, is to build movements up. This is communities, workers, people that are under threat from neoliberalism and sell off of public goods and things like that. Bring them together, help them organize. We have a lot of experience over decades, and to build up those movements to fight for their own rights.
Yeah.
And I think that the idea of accepting charity or saviors or something like that, that's the wrong way to think of it, because the working class, they have agency and autonomy, individual people from communities. And when people are organized and get together, they really achieve results.
Can I ask you a question as far as branding, right?
Sure.
How do you, and I'm all sort of, we're not speaking different languages here as far as means we're all part of the same church, I think. How do you talk to someone who may view the term working class as like, I'm not really working class?
Yeah. I mean, it is, because working class has certain connotations about, on factory floor, construction site. But actually, I'm using working class in the broadest possible sense. Like, I work in an office. I'm sort of middle class in the traditional sense of it. But I sell my labor. I sell my labor. Like I can't survive without.
You're still a civil engineer.
Yeah. I work full time, or like, as of this week, 4.5 days, so I can look after my little girl.
Oh, okay.
But I sell my labor for a living. That's working class. Or if you're dependent on someone who sells their labor for a living, or if you're unemployed and you have to, fight for your rights to have a measly, bit of dole in order to survive, that's working class. The only people who aren't working class are people who can survive on their capital. Basically, if they have, throughout their lives, if they've inherited wealth, or that they own part owners of a company, and that includes having a lot of shares where they don't need to work. That's a capitalist. But really, most of the capitalists are people who run corporations, who are genuinely in control of huge numbers of people, workers, and they have a lot of sway over the government. So, working class is a broad term.
Sure. I get that. I appreciate that explanation. How do you rationalize like what's happening globally here and obviously in America, where people who are working class are supporting the wrong politicians, whether it's a billionaire despot wannabe, or even here, like you still get the same people like, fuck Labor, I'm like LNP all the way, because I'm like, either way, like, do you understand what class you're part of?
Yeah, I know. And I think it's false consciousness, how we describe it. But like, people are under pressure everywhere, and they're feeling angry about, the fact that it's impossible for a lot of people to pay their rent, to pay their medical bills, in America particularly.
Oh, yeah.
They've got student loans, their money's coming out the door through various forms of debt. They're being squeezed, and prices are going up. Inflation is a real thing, and they're looking for why is this? And, harking back to the old days, especially of, things were better. There was a better arrangement between the factions of the ruling class and the workers. It was slightly more even back then in the 70s and the 60s. People look back to that as a golden age. And one thing that they look at is, like, oh, we're a whiter society, or, big business was more considerate of the worker, ignoring the part that unions played and things. And I think they misdiagnosed it. And it's been particularly, the Donald Trumps of the world. They're incredibly skillful at spinning a narrative in which, they're the saviors, they're the good guys.
So the only bit missing in all of that was, why wasn't there a consistent narrative throughout that period, and it was, let's say, it's golden, however it
The
was
golden
perceived.
age, yeah.
Yeah, like, it wasn't particularly
No,
golden.
I'm not, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it was, but how to then leverage off that to build that intellectual knowledge base, a currency to then make it where it needs to be. Because going back to my point before,
I mean, that is a good question.
going back to my point before, we can militarize everyone to join unions, to tweak it back, and all we're going to do is get back to that, precedential base of where we were before, of having another golden age until it gets corrupted again, if we repeat the cycle. As opposed to, okay, what narrative was missed? So educate people to say, okay, now you need to start taking the next step.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's like people have to really take control of their workplaces into their own hands. Like a lot of it's not just about, joining a union, because a lot of people these days think, oh, I join a union, which means I just pay my dues.
Sure. So therefore, can I argue that the fact that the unions, themselves didn't fulfill their roles?
Yeah, well, a big problem that we have at the moment is a lot of unions are very bureaucratized, and they're stagnant, and people don't feel like a union is their place to really fight. It's themselves. A union is themselves fighting for their conditions and their rights. They think it's, they're union officials up there.
I see. They don't feel part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a bit of an Orwellian thing about the absolute corruption happening, when they're in power. Because even those entities, when they became, in their peak, then they ate themselves internally.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of examples of union corruption, and you can't let your eyes off the ball. Unfortunately, like it's a constant battle, and it goes with making sure that your unions are accountable to the workers.
Because and the best example we have it in Australia, right? So you had Hayden, who was going to become Prime Minister of Australia. Move out of the way. Move out of the way. We've got someone else.
When are we talking?
This is prior to Bob Hawke.
83, right? Yeah. And we're going to get someone else in. Who? The union guy. But he's a fucking idiot. Like, not an idiot, but, he's an Elco and stuff, right? Really? Yeah, why are we bringing him in? Because they're going to bring the Accord in.
Yeah,
and
the Accord.
And suppress wages and conditions for all workers with corporations. So they'd use the union guy under Labor's umbrella to put conditions down for a long time.
I love that you're bringing this up. This is a very instructive part of Australia's history. The Accord, the full name of it was the Prices and Incomes Accord. They got in and they made a deal. Like the Accord itself was the Labor Party under Bob Hawke agreeing with the unions. Okay, when we get in, we want you guys to be quiet because, we'll deliver our agenda, which will work for you guys, the workers. But on the other hand, please don't strike, don't cause, chaos with our government.
Oh, it wasn't actually good for the workers?
No, the Accord was between the government and big business, how to control the workers for an indefinite period.
Yeah, the Accord was literally between the Labor Party and the unions, and it was, we'll institute prices control and income control. They implemented the income control. They forgot about the prices.
Interesting.
And so they basically, as soon as they got into government, they sold out the workers. And this is like the ALP is an institution of selling out workers.
So you want to see and who Bob Hawke was? They brought in the Air Force to destroy the pilots' union.
Yeah, my cousin, second cousin once removed, was a pilot, and he says Bob Hawke was his least favorite prime minister. He hates him, even though he's like a strong. He's
not a Labor politician.
But
they brought him in. They brought Hawke in to destroy the working class.
Yeah, I fully agree.
No, you don't. It's not an opinion. You look at his actions and what they voted for, what they brought in.
Yeah, they smashed the pilots' union.
And that is because I could say these things, right? And say, it's just your view on the Accord. No. Then look at, I always said, follow the money. They brought in the Air Force, the military to destroy a union.
Okay, yeah.
Just like Ben Chifley brought in the military to squash the coal miners in the 1949
I heard about that. Yeah, it's
it's in their DNA.
It seems bicycle, at least for the for the Air Force, at least, they presumably could fly these other planes. But getting the army to go and mine coal, it's like, that's not even...
Well, they use the army to smash and strike, right?
Yeah.
Mine coal.
All you do have to smash a few heads and the rest will go in, right? That's the whole purpose. Don't get focused on who's digging.
Although they were acting as scabs in the case of...
I wonder, am I remembering correctly, Hawke was the first Labor Prime Minister for, decades, wasn't he?
Well, no, because, you had Gough Whitlam, 1972. 72 to 75, Gough Whitlam, and then there was...
I remember there was a big gap, I think, when Menzies...
Well, Fraser had 2 terms, and then it was Bob Hawke, and Bob Hawke was in there.
Hayden was in.
26.
Hayden was going to win the election.
Oh, okay.
But they pushed him out and basically gave Hawke the run at the
I see.
at the election.
Interesting, yeah. It's actually,
and who's the they? Who's the they?
Without Labor was from Shipley losing in 1949 up until Whitlam in 72. Yeah. That was Bob Menzies.
They told Menzies he won in London like about how many 5-6 times.
He did spend a lot of his time in London.
I wonder actually on this point, it's fascinating learning about more about political history. I hope the viewers enjoy it as well. But it reminds me sometimes even chatting with like other candidates and other candidates within Fusion, for instance, some of them are like not especially knowledgeable about geopolitics, about history. Do you agree? Like how important is it, and do you feel that enough of the people we can vote for are sort of good enough to be on the ballot?
I mean, I have a completely different perspective on that, because I don't think that we should be electing people just to fully represent us, and we, all we do is we put them in a position of power and then they make the decisions for us. Like, that's not how a democracy should really work. It's a very removed democracy. I think that, I do agree that people should be, educated as much as you can. But I think that everybody can do that. Like, you can pick up an independent newspaper and and people have the capacity. Thanks, Peter. They have the capacity to understand these things. It's not something that a ruling elite has the knowledge and intelligence in order to make these decisions, and the poor schmoes who work the factories and sit in the offices, they can't make these decisions. Everybody in our society is smart enough to understand.
Oh, no, Bob Catter would disagree. We'll have to punch you in the face.
Bob Catter's smarter than he lets himself want to be. I disagree with him politically, but he's a canny politician. He plays himself up in a certain way.
I think there's a bit of an edge there, that's for sure,
yeah, of course.
Yeah. But sorry, you're saying, don't, elect someone wise to make choices on your behalf. What's the alternative? Sorry.
So a better way to do it would be one of our big policies is always that anybody elected from a socialist, and this, most socialist parties have this, is that they'll only take an average worker's wage and give the rest of it to community campaigns. Yeah. And the idea behind that is that we don't want a representative to become corrupted by this the feeling of being elite.
Yeah.
They're integrated within the working class movement to put them there. And we would ideally see recall elections. If they don't, we would, as a party, we would vote together to determine how best to respond to, questions in Parliament. We wouldn't let it to a single individual just to make their own decisions. It's a collective, collective decision made democratically. And if somebody went off on their own, completely own tangent, and didn't do things for the interests of the people that elected them to be there, then they should be recalled. Yeah. Because, we don't want a wise ruler ruling over us. We want somebody that's integrated with the community that elected to put them there.
The only thing that would, hamper that is if the, interest and active interest of the community waned, and then you only had a small, let's say, vanguard from that community impacting and influencing said elected person, then it's no different to the factions of whether it's a Labor or Liberal. So you actually still need that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the role of a party within our society, and a party is an instrument in which people can, if they join a party, and they're active within it, then they get to make the decisions about what the best tactics are to go forward. If interest wanes, that would probably mean that the party's becoming less active, or it's losing members,
or they become corrupt.
Yeah, well, I mean,
because then individuals or a group or a segment within that start being influenced, and then they influence the voting how they
Yeah.
want it to go, rather than the intent of what it was meant to be. As you're saying, that it's a community.
That's
and
true.
everyone-
You got to hold
Yeah.
these things to account.
Correct.
And of course, everyone's free to leave if the party that they're a part of is not acting in the interests of what they believe in. So, yeah.
Actually, yeah, Felix, on your point of the perks of power and people becoming corrupted reminds me. I'm pretty sure David Pocock is the only what do you call it? Elected politician federally in Australia where he's denied access. He refuses access to the
Chairman's
chairman's
lounge.
lounge.
Yeah.
Everybody else, even
I know. It is. This is an example of what you're talking about. The naked corruption of our society. The Chairman's Lounge is certainly like one of the most overt ones. It's government's constantly making
Albanese's
decisions
son
on
coming there,
wanted.
yeah.
And yet they're all receiving these incredible perks. And I'm sure it's like a lot of people. Like, I know some people will get into federal parliament because they want to make a difference, but I'm sure a lot of people see it as the ultimate prestige job. And
Yeah, some people see it like multiple times, even 5 times.
yeah, and you get an incredible pension once you leave if you've been there for long enough. You get your own office and staff. You get treated like a
You can
king
even have
or
sex with
queen.
one of your staff.
Well, Malcolm Turnbull did introduce the bulk ban, so we'll
There you
see.
go.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, because the prayer room that
I
happened.
was going to make a joke about the provision.
That's right. So many scandals we could be here all day. But
It's amazing that David Pocock is the only person that would reject something that's so nakedly petty corruption.
the rest of the TLs, based on what they say to the public, I would have thought all
It's amazing how cheaply people can be bought within this system. It's the cheap, like Australia is
I told you, it's meant to be corrupt.
cut.
Like they do it.
Politicians.
They should export how to do this. Like the other countries are just like, maybe they just don't give a fuck, but these guys have just got it honed in so well. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an excellent narrative and it's very cheap.
Actually, changing topics a bit. One of the things I wanted
Sport?
I don't know much about sport. One of the things that has come up on previous episodes, there's a
Plato.
That too, but there's a widespread belief in our society that science and religion are sort of enemies of each other, and I guess communism, for instance, has been an enemy of religion. Felix, can you clarify, especially like Socialist Alliance's position on religion?
I hate religion.
Well, I mean, we don't really have a position, we're secular. We don't talk about it. I'm an atheist personally. And I think like a lot of people within Socialist Alliance don't have a religion, but we're not anti-religion at all. In fact, some of the churches are terrific to work with on things like refugees.
Oh yeah, I guess.
When we were a big part of the refugee rights protests that were happening, particularly a few years ago. The churches were terrific, and we worked with them extremely closely. Like the Palm Sunday rallies. And obviously during the horror that's happening in Gaza, like a lot of the like the communities that we're working with are they're religious, of course.
But what about if a particular religion is used to then say, well, this is why we're actually killing the people?
Yeah, well, we would agree with
So
that.
therefore,
It's not justified.
yeah. So therefore, in principle, we're anti-religion, right? Is that your question?
Oh,
I don't know. The thing is, like, this is my personal view, is that religion is not part of capitalism in general. It's people's own faith and it's communities. And religion is also getting sort of decimated by neoliberalism and the drive purely for profits. And people need to live their lives in the best way that makes sense to them. Has meaning for them and has meaning for their communities. And a lot of these communities are built around.
Is this a rebranding of social? Or is this just your personal view?
Personally, I'm not religious, but I think that we want to work with everybody in a community who's under threat by the threat of capitalism and the power of capitalism. And in a lot of ways, that is religious community.
Well, wouldn't an argument be that religion has been used to
Yeah. When it's co-opted, absolutely.
in a Stockholm syndrome kind of way?
Maybe.
Just be.
Karl Marx did say that religion is the opiate of the masses.
In many ways, yeah. So is that narrative now kind of not being?
I mean, I just don't think it's the most important part of the struggle.
No, I'm not saying it is, but I was questioning whether that narrative is now being kind of massaged away.
Well, religion is definitely losing a lot of its cachet within our society. And yeah, like, I mean, there was a period
Some
when
parts,
religion, you know, like some very strong, you know, Christian groups were against gay marriage, for instance, and we fought very hard against them because we thought that you know, was an abhorrent position.
Yeah, actually, I wonder, do you... Sometimes I sense that, like, what if gay rights might be losing ground at the moment? Like, can you imagine gay marriage being banned again?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think it does show the progress that we've made. That just imagining gay rights being made illegal again, people would rise up. Like, there would be a huge counter protest against it, massively.
Oh, I mean, some of the stuff I'm hearing about in the US, it's very hard.
I think that's because, you know, Trump's in power and the right is feeling very emboldened, and so they have these ideas. And if they try to implement them, the backlash will be huge. Like, I don't think that, you know, society hasn't really gone back. Like, you can look at opinion polls and maybe, you know, there's been a bit of a softening around the, you know, the feeling of progress that we were making from, say, 10 years ago. But you can't unwind these things. A lot of this stuff, it comes out once you realize these are human rights that we're talking about, and it's seen within that context. You can't just put it back in the bottle and say, actually, forget about it. You know, people should be told, you know, who they can love.
Well, you know, you also got to remember, like, Thatcher and Reagan came after the 60s. So
You think, yeah, maybe a backlash against that. I don't know.
Conservatism can
I think
swing around again.
Maybe, but the thing is that we look back at the 60s and we have this, like, we see it through a prism, and then the counterculture, you know, Woodstock and, you know, flower power and all that. Like, so we think this was the 60s. Actually, for a lot of people, that wasn't the 60s. Like, the boomer generation, when they were, you know, they're teenagers and in their early 20s, that was their society.
Well, I'm thinking more actually meaningful material things that came out of the 60s, like the pill and so forth, which liberated and got them into the workforce, etc. We'll talk about other things. But things like that, not necessarily, you know, people sitting in some park playing some Indian flute or something, you know, the images, but real things that occurred. And then you know, it's like people careful of AIDS, you know.
When was Martin Luther King? When was he assassinated? That was the 60s, wasn't it?
That was 68.
Yeah.
So, and I do feel like that was, I do kind of think of, this is something that's, but they're Gonzo journalists. Hunter S. Thompson, you got it. Yeah, like that moment, the assassination of Martin Luther King, I think was the turning point of the 60s where, you know, the possibilities were, you know, you felt like we're on the, you know, I wasn't around, but, you know, society is changing for the better, and we're on the cusp of you know, maybe not overthrowing capitalism, but for transforming society in a better way. And that was the moment when we realized, you know, as a society, again, like, I'm not that old, but... are you saying, sorry, like, you know, things are improving, we can dream bigger? Oh, sorry, no, we can't now. That is... when
Until we got a farmer.
The FBI was intimately involved in the assassination of Martin Luther King. Like, nothing's proven, but they had him under surveillance.
Oh, actually, I'm not too familiar with this.
No, it all came out in the Epstein files that they released.
No, I think viewers, would actually want to hear more. I want to hear more about
I mean, we don't really know for sure, but he was under surveillance, and there was, like, it's speculated. We wish we had better information about it, but, you know, I would not be surprised at all if it eventually came out that he was assassinated by the FBI.
Was there written dot?
Okay, fair enough. But actually,
I mean, his daughter is very
I have seen something. Especially when they Trump released the files, she's like, thanks for all that. now waiting for the Epstein files.
I see. It's, hey, Peter, let's play a game, shall we?
Sure. Beer pong again?
No.
I wish.
I don't know if you've seen the previous episodes, but we like to play a game, guess a political quote.
All right.
And then, you know, we obviously reflect on the quote as well. So that's the thing. It's this one, sorry, it is a bit tricky. I don't know that anyone will get it, but it's just sort of a topic I want us to chat about. But you can guess either. So it was the leader of a country. I'll give you that clue.
All right.
Like a country. This person was alive in the last 200 years, let's say.
Okay. Alrighty.
So yeah, like if we want to guess the country, or ideally the person who said it, nationalism cannot flower if it does not grow in the garden of internationalism.
Sounds good. It's good sentiment.
Can you say it again?
Nationalism cannot flower if it does not grow in the garden of internationalism.
Yeah, interesting. Jeez.
Geez, I'd like to think it was some leader from North Korea, because that kind of like applies to them.
Know about that.
Or because I guess
Why not? They're not recognised.
Internationalism.
Well, yeah, he'd like to be recognised. It's like,
Okay,
I've got
last
pride in
200
my
years.
country, but I don't think so.
The way I saw it as well, reading, double checking like what this person probably meant at the time. Yeah, it's like you need, yes, like it's good to love your nation, but you need to, I guess, like be a bit realistic. Also love, other cultures.
Right.
Respect
Being the
other
international.
cultures. Yeah, and so this country is now. I guess this person was trying to guide the country towards lots of diplomacy as opposed to just
But again, it could be North Korea. You're not swaying me away.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
but anyway, so this was Sukarno, the first president of Indonesia. Yeah.
Well, of course. I don't want to say it was close for any racist reasons, but it was a bit of a dictator.
no, you're thinking of Suharto. Sukarno was the
sorry.
liberator.
Well, both of them actually. So reading about Sukarno, the first guy actually, so he had an idea of guided democracy.
Yeah, I think
Well,
it was
if I
the,
watched through the
three-
crosshairs.
I think he had the idea where there was the three pillars. There's religion, there's the army, and communism.
Yeah, interesting. It's for viewers, by the way, this proved to be his downfall. He was overthrown in a military coup.
Those coups.
Yeah, although I'd probably blame the coup rather than the sentiment. But
Oh no, but I've heard though, some countries should have some examples, but like if they've been involved over the years in like lots of coups, they get rid of the military as a way of sort of preventing further coups.
getting coup, like, I don't know about that. Augusto Pinochet in 1972 overthrowing the Allende government, and it became a military dictatorship. I think that like a lot of the coups within the 20th century, they became military dictatorships. Like in Brazil, it happened as well.
Well, yeah, it's actually so viewers
Indonesia as well. Like surely Suharto was like the embodiment of a military dictatorship in his era.
sorry, my point is more we can potentially avoid coups by getting rid of the military. I'd have to invest.
Well, that would be very nice, but like getting rid of the military is.
That would be a coup.
I'd love to know the mechanism of getting rid of the military, because they would certainly
that would provoke
defend
a coup,
themselves,
wouldn't it? Yeah. So that's
I mean, that is one of
They
the.
could try the 60s way, just put flowers in their gun.
I think you were watching Watchmen.
Who was that? The fake Kylie. She was having the ad with Pepsi. I think she was giving during the Black Lives Matter protests. Fake Kylie gave Kylie Jenner gave
See what you mean.
was giving like Pepsi to the cops, and then they stopped. Beating the black people. I think that's how it goes.
Really?
Yeah, the first, people thought it was. It only lasted
Sounds
that one day.
ridiculous.
I'd be upset if I fake.
Anyway, but
I mean, this is the
Pepsi's fake.
this is the problem that you have with like a revolution. It's that you can have a peaceful revolution that overthrows society, and you can institute like a more just way of living. But the old order will defend itself. So,
well, actually, I was reading a fascinating thing recently. They were predicting that because the US is so militarized, that sets the stage for a civil war and a coup in the next few years. They're saying
In America,
I mean,
exactly.
people talk about civil war in America, but
that's why they carry guns. It's one of the reasons why everyone should carry a gun.
Well, these people actually, the professor was saying like how ridiculous it is, this notion that like everyone has a gun, just in case of
king
government
comes,
tyranny.
yeah.
Like, have we not fulfilled this condition now?
yeah, although like I have a feeling that the people that have most of the guns are also the people that are more in favour of the tyrannical Trump regimes.
But yeah, it's like when this guy was making the point about the Civil War and all this, he was saying, for instance, you think of like the police in like a small town, maybe they have a shotgun. I mean, this would be the case in for New Zealand, for instance. But no, you go to a small town in the US, their police force has like helicopters, grenade launchers, all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting that America has like an extreme level of inequality and like hyperpower of the corporations there, and they seem genuinely afraid of a like an uprising or
Yeah, but-
you know, civil war or something like that.
but-
And they have the most militarized.
Yeah, but you got to
believe.
But I think the fallacy that exists is that America is this nation state, right, for the people. It is a business. It was set up not to pay tax, right? The revolution was based initially like the Tea Party thing. Yeah. They didn't want to pay tax.
That's a bit of a cynical.
They didn't want to pay tax on tea.
Yeah, exactly.
The British government
Exactly.
imposed a 1 cent.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, but hang on. But
No.
They
I'm
were
not saying.
well, they were saying taxation without representation. I think it's.
Yeah, but it started there, and the whole system is set up as a business. So even the fact that we spoke about it last week, right, where
The senators doing the insider trading. Is
sure, but we spoke about this one in particular, where you know they allege they have freedom of choice, right? But you must go to your employer, get your health benefit. Your family's then locked in there,
Absolutely.
no matter what they're
Yeah,
paying you.
yeah.
That is the feudal system of yesteryear today.
Absolutely.
So yes, you're a worker, but you're not even a worker. You're actually a slave to that corporation because your family, you go away from that, your kid's sick, you're fucked. You are a slave there. It's a business. They've got you locked in.
Yeah,
You're,
that's why they absolutely should, fight tooth and nail to not have like the Medicare for all, universal
absolutely.
healthcare, because then the bosses would lose an element of
Absolutely.
control over their
that
workers.
is grip control. It's not.
something we fought very hard
Oh, yeah.
for in Australia and like the UK.
Yeah, and they tried. Obviously, the US said, we want to get rid of some of the benefits that go against our pharmaceutical companies. If Albanese even sneezed
Absolutely.
at that, there would have been there should have been a riot.
Yeah, well, in 2014, when Joe Hockey came out and said that we're going to limit GP visits that are bulk billed to 8 per year, people spontaneously went onto the streets and stopped traffic, stopped the trams in Melbourne. It was just like immediate tension, and you could see the government just thought,
And that's why I raised it at the start of this conversation, right? And I spoke about Albanese's and Islamophobia thing. So, there's people that were marching out there and they can turn a blind eye right now and not talk about it and bring out, their own version of
what are they not talking about? Sorry,
why people are marching, right?
You're talking about the Bridge March in Sydney.
No, the protests against what's happening in Israel and Gaza, right?
That's right.
Albanese never spoke about it, what really happened, and even questions and then he wheels out his own Hannibal Lecter, from the ASIO to say we discovered, and then he goes and talks to students from
Anything comes out of ASIO, they burn their credibility.
yeah,
in the Iraq
they're gone.
war.
They're gone
So
now too. They're gone now too, right?
I wouldn't trust a single
So
thing they say.
everything that they're wheeling out is gone. So again, they can deny that people, the Australian public, have seen, because they're out marching already. It's not going to take much for them to do something stupid now, because they're showing that they are stupid. To come out and do what they did after those marches and not even recognize it and just give tokenist statements like, as long as the hostages are freed and this and that. Well, they're still blowing up hospitals and the journalists and it got transmitted live. Right? Everyone saw it. And we're like, no.
And why are they expelling the Iranian
That's my point.
ambassadors
No.
and the
That's my
Israeli
point.
ambassadors?
Because it's the last attempt. Whoever is playing Albanese throughout, whatever his pro-Zionist thing to say, let's go with the Islamophobic thing again. It's
I know.
worked. It's worked for like 40 years. Let's go again. Let's do it again. It's like, you guys just fucking any shred of, robe that you had as an emperor, like your micro penis is showing, mate.
Actually, I fully agree. People's eyes are opening. They can see what's happening and they can see the
The
disconnect.
next
between
march,
what
I don't know what's
leaders and
happening in the
media are
city
saying.
today, because I know in the city they're meant to have the neo-Nazis, Australia thing. Fuck it, they are. So, they're having this. I don't know what's happening with that. And let's be honest, that was being raised to discredit marching, right? Because they're going to put in laws to try and stop other marches. Yes. Yes.
I can see.
They're raising that. They're raising that to do that on the back of what's happening, so then they can put new laws.
Yeah,
because
'cause-
they banned the march in Brisbane. All of a sudden, people can do marathons on it. They can do all the stuff, but also peaceful people to say, government, you're complicit in this on this. We're not accepting it. We've got other views. Oh no, it's not safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bullshit. So this march here has been organised to now create new laws. To say this is why we're not doing, because look at the clashes that it's going on. Believe me, this is what's going to happen.
I wouldn't totally. I'm not 100% point into the
No,
history, but
no,
I
it's
see
not
where you're coming
conspiracy. It's
from.
not conspiracy. You watch it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that they bring out laws to repress
100%.
the Palestinian protest as much as they like at the moment. Like,
But I'm saying that's what
when the anti-Semitism envoy came along, and all of a sudden it was like, oh well, we can
Oh, what a fraud! What a fraud that was, right? Where is the report? Come on.
Yeah.
Like everyone saw it for what it was. We're going to take funding away from universities if you don't toe our line. And everyone's like, coming up with this, go try it. Try it.
I don't think they need an excuse to crack down on protests. They're already doing it, especially like in Victoria, they're bringing in a huge amount of surveillance of protesters. They're bringing in anti-protest laws across the board, and people are getting prosecuted for it. And it's happening around the world too.
It should really be eye-opening. When the government bans protests, I don't understand how the non-protesters can think,
It won't happen to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard a criticism that people who there are people who don't mind about freedom of speech being oppressed because basically I don't have anything to say.
You will.
It's eye-opening. Yeah,
It's the old poem. First they came for the communists, and I didn't speak up.
It's like when you see on a Tinder thing profile and they say your date say I'm not political.
Oh, I can't stand that.
It's like what? When did you lobotomize yourself?
That's one of my pet peeves. Anyway, but actually, I wanted to mention in terms of the we were saying about the protests today, and partly why I brought up the nationalism quote before. It's I wanted, Felix, would you agree with this characterization that patriotism is I love my country even more than I love other countries, versus nationalism is I hate those people even more than I hate people in my country.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting way to think about that. But I think that nationalism is sort of seen as a more extreme version of patriotism, where you like it's blood and soil. It's like you've got an ethnic dimension to it.
Or
patriotism.
can I actually add another bit to that, which they evoke every time when they need it? God and country.
Yeah, I think that's more of an old school one.
Well, they still use it everywhere.
Yeah, okay.
Because I guess when I was giving this quote by Sukarno, I think he probably didn't say it in English, and so maybe a more accurate translation would be patriotism cannot flower. But I guess that's
but I think he's trying to I don't know the context of the quote, and Sukarno obviously had issues and things like that, but he was a liberator for the Indonesian people. Yeah. But I think that the emphasis of what he would be saying there is that you can't be insular about your own advancement. You got to work with people across the board.
Sounds like
internationalism.
Sounds like an international greenie.
Yeah. But
internationalism is like a key component of socialism.
Well, communism by definition.
But
not necessarily by definition, but
once it stopped being in a single nation state like Stalin did, it ceased to be, right?
Well, it did take a long time to cease to be, but I totally agree.
He chased Trotsky for a while, but
I think that the system works best if it's like the whole world, because capitalism is international. We have the system of imperialism.
Well,
so you can fight against it as a small country, but the forces that will come and get you are enormous, and they use all the leaders that they have. They use sanctions. They can overthrow your leadership. There are dozens of examples of each of them, and ultimately they can invade. Using the overwhelming military.
Oh yeah, I've got to check up. We were discussing just last week about Venezuela getting invaded soon.
They sent some warships over to them. I mean, Venezuela does have a huge amount of oil. The Americans do love sending fleets of ships over to places,
especially to corrupt governments that they've corrupted.
Well, quite often they do. They do put up puppet governments and then turn against them and send the warships.
Well, actually, on that point, I wanted to touch on. So part of Sue, her federal campaign, I guess it's probably still a socialist policy to end military ties with the US. When I was chatting with especially when people were asking me at the booths about what's your position on like Israel Palestine, for instance.
What did you say?
Don't worry, I'll tell you. But so I was mentioning to these people, like, in terms of military ties with Israel, our main involvement is we're part of the global supply chain for the F-35, the overpriced jet fighter.
And then also heap of shit.
And then also,
We make the air fresheners, they hang off the room.
we make the non-violent parts.
Yeah, I know. What a quote. Oh, I love that from Benny Wong. Non-lethal components like the Bombay doors. Yeah, non-lethal because they release the bombs that kill the, civilians in Gaza.
But I was mentioning these fighters as well. The other, participation we have with Israel is that, we host Pine Gap, surveillance place for the
That's
US.
absolutely right.
But then, so John Mearsheimer, for instance, a US policy think tank person, I've heard him make the case before that if you're not allied with the US, you're an enemy, and that's a very dangerous position to be in.
It almost sounds anti-Semitic. Well, if you actually think about a Venn diagram kind of thing, which one's bigger than that? So
Anyway,
Go on.
But also Japan, for instance, comes to mind as the ultimate sort of vassal state. They've been completely put in their place by the US.
Yep.
They have to keep buying US Treasury bonds, keep buying the overpriced jet fighters.
Spend $500 billion in direct foreign investment into American factories. We'll see if that ever happens, but
But then, with Japan being put in such a weak position, thanks to being subservient to the US, when the socialists talk about, let's end military ties with the US, I guess, can we acknowledge the repercussions would be very scary, wouldn't they be?
America is at the heart of a global imperialist system. That's for sure. Ending military ties, there are different levels of this, and the first step is to cancel AUKUS. And AUKUS is a gigantic waste of money, and also really imperils us in terms of if America decides to for instance go to war with China. You don't want to. We want to get as far away from that as possible. We're being legoed into the American military industrial complex to be part of the forward vanguard of their force to attack China, which is an incredibly scary position to be in. We want to get that out of that as fast as possible.
But it's just I get the impression that many voters think, when they hear let's end military ties with the US, that we just sort of we leave and that's the end of it. Okay,
I'm on McDonald.
We can still be friends.
We need to be independent. As much as we've been talking about internationalism, for Australia itself as a nation, we don't want to be dependent on any one power around the world, and that includes the US. Where it's in our interests, we'll ally with anyone that's that helps the people of Australia. So we don't want to have a commitment to become an aggressive force in the Pacific, which is exactly what America wants.
But can I just play devil's advocate here? And again, I'm not harping that America, should get in America's back pocket or anything. But a moment ago, we were talking about how everything is really international, and capitalism is an international phenomenon that's controlled at an international level. And really, the nation state is almost, it works on a different level, where we're consumers within this state, and other people can create the state to manipulate and control certain resources, whether it's through despotic means or whatever, and get the workers to work at a certain level. So I find that a little bit like a paradox to then say, we're going to advocate for what this nation state should be, when we're really accepting that the nation state has almost lost its real meaning.
I mean, the thing is, I agree. Things should be done in terms of the interests of the people within the society.
And there's also the quote.
Yeah.
And
we want to work with we'll work with anybody doing that.
It was a lot.
We got to get back to the philosopher quotes, okay?
It's got to be Greek or nothing.
As socialists, we don't believe in the military in its current form as it is. The defence of Australia is something that should be handed over to the people, rather than having an institution which is completely controlled by the government,
Parliament,
and ultimately by the ruling class and capitalism.
And I think also focus. I don't disagree with you, because we've been locked in not just for these submarines, which we're never going to get, right? We should have just got the boxers and put them on the dock as a threat. We don't actually need the submarines.
The submarines are overtly dumb in
many
ways.
Absolutely, because the Raiders going to pick them up in 20 years' time anyway, right? So let's
They could have got cheap ones from Japan.
Well, no,
like if I was running the military.
I told them, just get the boxes and put them on the dock and say, we've got them.
Yeah.
You know, they're out there.
yeah,
you can't
yeah.
find
That's
it.
right.
That's not a bad idea.
It's about the
Good idea.
threat.
Save our $368 billion and
Just give us
spend
the
it on
boxes.
Medicare.
Just give us the boxes. That's all we want. The threat that we have them. That's all we need.
Yeah.
So, you know, we don't, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder actually, Felix, you mentioned let's put the military in the hands of the civilians. Are you talking about maybe like these the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps? Sort of model?
I don't think they're for hire anymore.
Like we are not fans of the.
But sorry.
I know what you mean, but
Yeah,
because
just-
like you have a revolution and then you have a. I
I
don't even think that.
sorry, just to explain what we're talking about. The Iranians have a military, but then they also have the Revolutionary Guard Corps.
Yeah, yeah.
And their mission is to basically keep the revolution alive, not any particular one government.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like the Iranian Revolution went sort of off the. Yeah, like it got a bit hijacked.
But then, sorry, can you elaborate on the structure you're proposing for Australia?
Well, I think that like the military-industrial complex that we have here is extremely beneficial towards corporations at the moment. You know, the big, you know, defense contractors, Dales, and you know, BAE Systems,
Boeing,
you know, which you know, like whether they're Australian or they're international, they like the corruption is incredible within these groups. So, what we would do is under a revolution or like a system with democratic ownership of the means of production and like a society that works for working people here in Australia is we would think about what the needs of that society are in terms of defense, you know, like what are our threats around the world. And frankly, having a few submarines out in the Pacific to patrol the Chinese, international waters and things like that, that's not serving our defensive purposes. If we're genuinely a threat by invasion, I think, we would need to arm the people and have a...
Sorry, the submarines wouldn't help prevent an invasion?
No, I don't think so. I really think that like those submarines...
But what do you mean? The ships would have to come, with the boarding parties and...
The submarines as they are, the AUKUS submarines, are really, as far as I can see, like they're an attack force. They're in order to bolster the American military in the event of a conflict over Taiwan. That's their ultimate goal. Seems pretty clear to me. Like, and sure, if we're at risk of, like, it's so hypothetical. We're propagandized in this country to believe that there's like this huge war brewing between America and China. We've got to be on the side of the Americans. That's absolute bollocks,
Yeah, it's hard for me to believe,
But like, the
biggest
hypothetical invasion,
biggest consumer.
We might need, certain bits of military tech, of course, if we're at actual risk of invasion, and that would depend on who who was invading our country and what circumstances are. It's very difficult to imagine what that would be. Like if it was from the Tomorrow When the War Began series, if the Indonesians were invading from the north, which is a fantastical scenario, but like the submarines. Yeah, like maybe you put a few submarines in the Timor Sea or something like that.
Yeah.
But that would be a decision that would be made democratically by society. I think much more realistically is that the defence has been built up for the interests of the corporations rather than the people. And that, like a democratic defence of this country would look extremely different to what we've got at the moment.
Yeah, fair enough. Actually, speaking about the invasion by China, there was an interesting book, The Echidna Strategy. They were talking about, Australia needs not necessarily a military that can actually take on China, for instance, but Australia needs to credibly make it, sufficiently difficult where like invading Australia would really be an undertaking. And so the book was talking about like what if we were allied more with Indonesia, for instance.
Sure.
Yeah, it's
I mean, I think it would be an incredibly difficult undertaking as it is, because people like the society we would defend ourselves. Like the closest that we came was in World War II when the Japanese were, and there was, there was a Kokoda Trail and things like that. Yeah.
There was, my grandfather, for instance, he was north of Brisbane. They were legit, he was saying, him and his like fellow army people, they legitimately thought that the Japanese invading was like a real possibility.
So we're actually talking about like logical conclusion of everything just going fucking belly up, fucked, right? So, you know, whether it's Indonesia invading Australia, China, you know, game's over, right? Missiles are coming first and foremost.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, and in aeroplanes and stuff. So, you know.
Can't speculate.
Yeah, no, exactly. So therefore, that's my point. You're just speculating based on how we all perceive a war sort of playing out. My point is that I wanted to make that we're talking about our economic trading partners. And, you know, these nice little stories that they put out when, you know, America just wants to keep churning their machinery over to sell armaments and stuff, right? That's what they do.
Well, but they need wars.
They do.
to justify
And
this.
every president has always instigated a war, right?
So they need to deplete their reserves in order to
Absolutely.
keep
And
production
they sell these ones to Greece in case Turkey invades, and these to Turkey. And France sells their stuff there.
Well, this is one reason where both, you know, like the Gaza war is extremely useful because they're using a gigantic amount of munitions.
Absolutely.
for that.
Absolutely. So this is just perpetual, right? There's massive industry in America where people just, army based and manufacturing industry.
We were talking about Obama before and reminiscing about his Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, but the thing is, no one in these corporations that we were talking about earlier is, apart from those investing in where you what's going on, is going to benefit from a war that's currently benefiting from where they're benefiting from.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So no one actually who's in charge now wants a war unless they're benefiting from a war.
Yeah. It's
Absolutely. Yeah. I think
They're in
the
such
majority of the population realizes this. No,
Correct.
We're not living in a society where people are desperate to go to war. Like it has happened in some societies, and it's a very scary place. Australia is not like that. People in general are like, we don't want anything to do with that shit.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's I think we do definitely need, I think, stronger ties with Indonesia, especially for the military.
Well, I mean, Indonesia's got, you know, like we're absolutely opposed to Indonesia's treatment of the West Papuans.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, actually, one of the things I wanted to bring up was so yeah, they were saying like what got started. Obviously, I was studying in Indonesia today, but so they were talking about like one of the things that united them when they got their independence was this hatred of colonialism. And yet they invaded East Timor. There's all these, people wanting to become independent, Aceh, West Papua.
Yeah.
They keep getting suppressed. And it's like, wait, I thought you guys were anti-imperial.
Yeah.
They drank the Kool-Aid. There was some left over.
But the thing,
like the Dutch. It's called Kool-Aid.
Well, I mean, one of the biggest, most horrible things that in the Indonesian history is the repression of like the Communist Party in the 1960s. Where between 500,000 and 1 million people were killed by the Suharto government.
Yeah.
And that was like an extreme form of violence of a military coup. Just up to 1 million people getting killed. And the society that emerged from that is obviously pretty different to the one that, existed under Suharto.
Well, you look at in the Greek Revolution, the civil war that occurred there, and even once it ended after World War II, and in the Communist Party at the time, which were part of the freedom, they came in. It was the British actually released the Nazi sympathizers to suppress and kill the communists.
Yep.
And then they
Operation
became
Gladio.
Yeah, and then they became the dictatorship that took over.
Yeah.
You can just go into any part of the world and see, okay, why did this exist? And you just, again, follow the money, the traces, and it's like,
I know. And the West presents itself as like the Western values of freedom and democracy. We stand for peace. All these barbarians around the world. And you scratch the surface of pretty much the history of every country in the world. And you can see the violence of American imperialism.
well, no, even British, it's the same.
And British imperialism before. Yeah, absolutely. It's like it's a continuum.
Well, actually, yeah. So I got the impression actually with these various independence movements in Indonesia, plus the outrageous mismanagement of Jakarta, for instance. It seemed to me like a possibility that like, what if Indonesia has a civil war in like 20, 30 years from now?
Well, it is interesting to read the news just like in the last few days. They've got this huge uprising happening. Because
Interesting.
In Indonesia.
Well, what's going on?
Well, it came out, I'm not fully up with it, but it just came out a few days, a couple of weeks ago, that every member of parliament since last year got like a $3,000 monthly or annual bonus for their living expenses, which is just an unfathomable amount of money for the Indonesian population. And they started protesting. And then during the protests, a military vehicle ran over a delivery, a delivery driver actually.
Yeah.
And suddenly, it was on video. And so at the moment, people are burning down local legislators and coming out in huge numbers in the streets to protest. It's becoming more and more authoritarian again.
Actually, it's very fitting. It's very consistent. I was reading about Jakarta, for instance. I don't know if you're aware, but so they're moving the political capital from Jakarta to a brand new city.
And what a project!
Well, this project, it's a shit show. It's behind schedule. They're building this place in the middle of the jungle. Kicking out the native people there. And but they've already finished off the presidential palace. Priorities. It's just outrageous. And because I was reading it's partly why they're moving it out of Jakarta. Turns out Jakarta's sinking. So they have underwater aquifers, and they have 13 rivers going into Jakarta. And yet the people don't have drinking water. They have to dig their own wells and get it out of the groundwater. And so Jakarta's sinking. It's sinking at 20 centimeters a year.
Wow. Yeah, they got two problems because the city itself is sinking because the aquifers are being depleted, and you've got climate change, which is ultimately raising sea levels.
It's just outrageous mismanagement. It's 20 million people or so in Jakarta.
It's an enormous city.
It's just oh my goodness, what a mess.
I hope the presidential palace is big.
Well, I think they stuck it up a little bit above sea level this time.
But I read about problems like this. It helps put it into perspective. I guess when we bitch and moan about things needing to be fixed in Australia,
at least Canberra is 500 meters above.
We've got good civil engineers here.
My brother, he's a civil engineer as well, actually.
Oh, really?
But I think
wrong advice on shares, though.
Well, the opposite end of the spectrum, though. My brother is also a member of the Liberal Party. I don't know if you'd get along with him.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of Liberal Party members in civil engineering and construction, I've got to say.
I guess, I suppose they would be.
I won't be the few.
Pretty aligned with the government and all that, yeah. But actually, you would be the odd one out, because I guess we're the most socialists, probably in the unions. I guess you're part of a union, I gather.
I remember the Professionals Australia, they call their union, and they're not particularly inspired. Sorry.
But actually, so on our one of the early episodes, we had a guy from the Renters and Housing Union. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
And there's isn't there as well the unemployed workers
union? Yeah, unemployed workers union there. Really.
Yeah. Yep. It's curious to see it doesn't always have to be your job title. It's are you familiar, by the way, the unemployed workers union? What are they up to?
I haven't seen as well. I used to follow Jeremy. What's his name? He was great. It's great on Twitter. But, I don't know actually what they've been up to recently. We used to have a fair bit involved with them a few years ago.
Oh, did you see? There was that one on Fox News 5 years ago. You might have seen this clip, Felix? It was There was this person, they were organising the anti-work Reddit thread, and she had...
Anti-work?
Yeah, she had what do you call it? One of those mental autism, yeah. I think she was autistic. She couldn't look at the camera. She was unfortunately dressed like an unemployed person, and the optics were just terrible. And then, the interviewer tore her to shreds, and people really pissed off afterwards. I can't believe you've killed our movement. Can't you have a bit more sort of common sense and a bit more media savvy?
I missed this one.
What was the movement?
The anti-work movement. They were saying that work is demeaning and we're not paying.
Work itself is demeaning.
Oh, many jobs, yeah.
So, but the rest of them that were upset about their movement, couldn't they just continue not working?
Yeah, but they lost a lot of credibility. I mean, if you look at the interview, it is a train wreck.
I would have to fully understand what was going on there.
It's who was, I think, did we, I'm pretty sure with Rachel, the Libertarian, I'm pretty sure we covered basic income.
Yes.
We covered a lot of topics with Rachel. That was a fun episode.
I should listen to that one.
I'd love to get another libertarian on.
We should.
I just want to really understand Small government, smaller government is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in a few interesting positions there.
And Pauline Hanson, how they fit into their caveat of who they are.
Yeah, it's I don't understand. I mean, the One Nation, they're all over the place. It's I was reading as well. It might surprise viewers, but
You reading?
One Nation, it's had a very surprising amount of people who like get elected and then defect, and then I think
that's happened a lot. Yeah,
there was a recent one I was reading about
herding cats, I think.
But a recent one I was reading about was I think she got elected during the federal election and then quit One Nation because of like the reputation was sort of too much to overcome. And I'm thinking, well, is the reputation really such a hurdle? I mean, you got elected as a One Nation person.
What was the reputational issue that she couldn't overcome? Like the fact
Racism?
that she was coming out of One
Racism.
Nation. She could have thought about that before she became a candidate, surely.
Oh, actually,
You weren't racist enough.
Actually, in the last few days, that's right. Sarah Game, I'm pretty sure her name is. She's forming a new party now.
Oh yeah, that also tends to happen.
Multi-nation? Well,
Let's maybe not One Nation, maybe just half a nation. Kick out the other half.
sprinkling of a nation. Donation. I'll take anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the advantages of living in a system with preferential voting is that, like, if you have a split, that's okay. It's like, you can preference each other if you want. Maybe it's tactical.
Oh, I do.
Holy nation.
Yeah, I do find it outrageously dishonest though. Like all these people where they run under one banner and
Like the jury racket.
Oh no, I think it's more sorry. Like if you run as a One Nation candidate and then days after the election, oh no, sorry, I won't do that anymore. And who was it?
Jacinta. Should shift over into LNP.
Who's the
She's a
Greens?
national.
Oh, who's the Greens woman I'm trying to think of in WA? She
Payman, you mean?
Oh,
Payman. She left.
No, that too. There was
Oh no, she was later, but she
definitely
left
Greens,
under for real ideological reasons.
Yeah.
Which one?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it's that one. She was accused of bullying all the staff. I'm pretty sure it's WA. Yeah, she was bullying all these staff, and then she defected to Labor around the time of the federal election. She wasn't up for election in May. It's
okay. I mean, sometimes senators they defect to a party or they become an independent in order to run in the election because they get a better pension if they are voted out rather than if they quit or they don't compete.
I see. So they make themselves unelectable, you're saying?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Quite a few times, if someone's kicked out of a party, rather than being like, okay, then I won't run in the next election, they'll put themselves up as a different party candidate or as an independent, just in order to collect that extra pension. It's like $100,000. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. What a system.
I'm really against all these pensions. I heard it's all about a scandal where I don't know if it's a scandal, but
Fact checking.
Well, no, I mean this is definitely true.
Okay.
There was a federal judge, and they get pensions if they serve like 10 years. Mm-hmm. So he was a federal judge for 10 years, and then like the next day quit and became a Victorian judge, and so he gets 2 pensions.
Oh yeah. Yep. Taking maximum advantage.
Well, it's what, yeah.
But I'm going to fact check you here. This is the same guy who was advocating why politicians who have a portfolio should be allowed to then get a job because that's where they built up their
expertise. Yeah.
So, and you were saying that should be okay.
Oh no, I don't like the idea of pensions.
Yeah, but isn't that, how different is that? They're actually profiting off what they should have been doing with an arm's length, no conspiracy or corruption, but then they get to profit long term for sitting on a board of a company that they were actually making decisions on.
Yeah, like Anna Blythe.
Like any of them.
Yeah.
Christopher Pine or any
involving door
yeah.
between politics.
Yeah. Look at our great ex-multi-policy owner PM who's now in America talking about
Scott Morrison.
Scott Morrison, right? All of them.
Yeah,
that's a pension for life, and they were in political power.
People become parliamentarians partly because of the prestige of it, but also because they know that as soon as they're out,
Albanese's working on his super scheme now.
Yeah,
Wong's working on his super scheme now. Like, who knows what military company she's going to get a job in next? making the air fresheners for the F-15.
the non-violent parts. What happened to Anna Bligh? She was Queensland Premier, wasn't she?
Yeah, got voted in. They
She was
became
brilliant. the banking representative.
Yes,
They
banking
put her
lobbyist.
on and talking about the banks and like what they're trying to do.
Her expertise is to be the premier, and she was
It was
obviously
like
very
sickening.
the bank.
It was sickening.
Disappointing.
It was disappointing. It's just who they are.
Yeah.
That is their pension.
I mean, why would you get into politics, in a system where, like, you're so constrained from what you can actually do for ordinary people? Like the people that get into it are there for
So
their own.
We spoke about it at the start of this
advancement.
conversation. The Qantas lounge.
Yeah.
So it starts there. Why is the edge? That's the edge of the wedge, right? Why is it not going to continue? That's where they start.
Yeah.
Here's your Qantas membership.
And who knows how many other perks they get that we don't know.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
That.
That's the beginning of the wedge.
They get
The
very
rest of it just goes like that.
I saw actually there was a
You
video.
can't be half pregnant.
Yes.
They are getting.
There was I remember seeing a video with Barnaby Joyce. This is how they've lost their self-awareness. Barnaby Joyce in the chairman's lounge, eating a plum while he's trying to give a speech to TikTok.
Reading his own book.
I think that was
Bobcat.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Because
I thought you were talking about.
yeah, no.
He hadn't read it before.
Yeah,
But that was the first time he read it.
Well, 'cause,
Anyway,
but he's so he normalized to it that eating while you're in the chairman's lounge, trying to give some speech about cost of living, whatever, to voters. It's just bizarrely out of touch.
out of touch.
Yeah. It's, but actually, on the point, my brother actually, he sent me a picture of Kata reading his own book, and my brother was like,
That's funny. That's funny.
it makes sense. If someone wrote a book about me, of course I need to fact check it.
This is another reason why I think Cutter's like a
Sorry, he was.
politician.
That's right. He was apparently the author. But I mean,
It's just a funny image.
Yeah.
But he's like sitting in the airport.
Yeah.
And he's got his-
He knows he's the
RM
smartest
boots.
of his constituents. That's the thing. He knows he's the smartest of his constituents.
But actually, wouldn't you guess as well? Like, it's obvious it's a ghostwriter. Yeah, I mean, like,
No shit.
yeah.
He's gonna sit there with another 999 monkeys punching that out.
Because he doesn't.
He can certainly turn a phrase.
We were saying before, like, you and I agree that
You clearly like Bobcat.
he's probably acting a bit in his persona.
Yeah.
But underneath the persona, I still don't think he's a genius.
No, not a genius.
Not a
He
genius.
clearly knows how to manipulate.
what he's doing.
He clearly knows how to manipulate the press and his own PR. Clearly, he's done it well for a long time.
But so I think we agree. We definitely need a change of some of these people. But sorry, just to finish off, Felix, can you clarify? Sorry, we started by saying the Greens, for instance, want to keep the existing system. You want to overhaul it. Can you clarify then? I mean, why are you running for elections then? If you want to.
Yeah. I mean, elections are actually I was trying to make this point earlier, but elections are terrific opportunities because people want to participate in, people like democracy and they want to participate in, getting out and voting and, choosing the leaders of the country and things like that. It's something that we collectively as a society just actually kind of enjoy doing, I think. And people are very open to talking to people in these situations. We knock on doors. When elections happen, we go on huge door knocking campaigns. We knock on tens of thousands of doors.
Yeah.
And the reception we get is actually quite positive. It's a wonderful experience. I love it. I'm addicted.
Yeah.
If you just knock on people's doors completely out of the blue, it's a bit weird. But during elections,
During elections, yeah, they keep it.
people are interested in politics. They want to be informed. They want to debate, and it's a terrific opportunity to present your ideas. So that's one aspect of
Well
it.
done, Owen. You brought the conversation around.
Actually, on that point, I should mention. I similarly enjoy meeting. Meeting people.
Talking to the voters, and you get a gauge of what the public sentiment is. You can get to find out about issues. You talk about what you believe in, and people say, look, actually, the thing that I really care about is the fact that the council is just demolishing this park or something like that. And I hadn't heard that. I'm gonna look into this. And another one is that it is possible to get elected within the it's very difficult as a socialist. Yeah, all the headwinds, and also we're not a gigantic name brand Labor, Liberal, or even the Greens. But it is possible to get elected. Like Sue Bolton won with 46% of the vote in her council ward,
seat,
which
yeah.
is spectacular.
46 is a decent chunk. Yeah.
Yeah, Labor Party was next on 22% or so. So that was effective. And she can actually use that position within the council to really advocate for the community and use whatever levers that she has, and also expose how constrained a person on the council is. And if somebody was elected, so I was a candidate for the Senate in 2022.
Oh, okay.
And I wasn't campaigning all over Victoria, but it is theoretically possible to win a Senate position. And if I did have a Senate position, then I would use that to make as much noise as possible about the system, to bring up its contradictions and the way that it works against the interests of working people, make it as big a fuss as possible. And, when it does come down to it, I would vote for things that are in the interests of the working class.
And if you learn anything today, if you make enough noise, you'll get sacked and you get an extra $100,000.
But, if you get sacked by the voters, but not if the... Yeah, and also you have to be there for like 10 years or something. They're always
But yeah, on the point of meeting voters, I love to.
I know, yeah. I can see that you were having the time of your life there. You were the most energetic.
Except the guy that told you can't give out those leaflets. That was harrowing.
What was that?
Oh, yeah.
You're right.
No, this was serious. I got assaulted.
I didn't need to bring that up again.
Yeah, they well, so it was. Oh, did I meet you at the? No, that was
in pre-poll.
But yeah, no, there was so like during pre-poll it was a bit of a hassle, but then on election day itself, I visited like 4 booths. At every one, they were saying like I couldn't come in the gates, like in the grounds. They were selling sausages, they were doing all sorts of things in the grounds, and yet I apparently wasn't allowed in to give.
They usually have like a 6 meter.
Exactly. The rule is 6 meters.
Homophobe.
But the 6 meters, that's from the entrance of the polling place. So all these fucking self-important, people in charge of the polling booth that day, they had just all decided, the entrance to the polling place is like the gates of the property. Like, no, the polling place, you've clearly, like that particular building is clearly the polling place, not the whole property.
Okay.
Anyway, and so I told them, you're wrong. I need to hand out the flyers. People need to like be informed.
Yep.
At the one of the churches I went to, they called their superior. Came out and they shook my hand and apologized, and then all the the Labor people rushed in. Thank you, Owen, we owe you a favor. But then
You're in the debt.
Oh yeah, but at another one, the guy kept getting in my way, saying you're not allowed to be here, and then pushed me over.
Oh no!
Push you over.
Yeah, and then
wait, a polling?
Yeah, the polling guy, the officer in charge. And I was wearing my pink suit, it got all the grit on it, and I reported it to the Electoral Commission later.
Yep.
And the police. The Electoral Commission refused to name who it was.
I didn't know you got pushed over.
It was. That's the way. There's a big deal.
Okay. We never went into this much detail.
Oh, anyway. The police, they asked the Electoral Commission who is this person that Owen's talking about. The Electoral Commission refused to hand over the information. That's been the end of it, and so I've referred to the Ombudsman now.
Yeah, great.
It's ridiculous. Outrageous.
Stand up for your rights.
And I tried to give the impassioned plea to the voters when I was being oppressed at the booth. Thankfully, they took my side. I thought they might,
Witnesses.
Oh, well, yeah. So Samantha Ratnam was there at the time. Tim Reid, our state member. They said they didn't see anything, unfortunately. So that's a shame. Tim will hopefully. I invited Tim to come on the podcast. We got there's a state.
I like Tim.
There's a state thing going on at the moment in Victoria. They're doing a review of the Owners Corporations Act. Peter and I, loyal listeners, will be very aware that Peter and I don't especially like owners corporations and what kind of submission.
I think they kind of don't like me too much.
But anyway, sorry, I wanted to make a point to the viewers. I love meeting voters and hearing new ideas and all that. Fusion Party, we're having a meet and greet coming up Wednesday the 10th of September at the Northcote Social Club.
Did you send an email to the Owners Corporation?
About that? I don't know that I want them.
No, that if you're allowed to have it.
The Owners Corporation at the Northcote Social Club.
But by the way, you're definitely welcome to come to the meet and greet as well, by the way.
Thanks for the invite.
Are there any socialist events coming up as well?
Well, we got eco-socialism next weekend. So it's it's our big event of the year.
Oh, okay.
And it's in Melbourne, so it's in a different city each year.
Eco-socialism, what can people expect?
Well, we got people. We're flying in people from around the world, and there's going to be a lot of Australian.
It's like a 3-day event, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's from Friday until Sunday, and it's actually in Brunswick.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
Very convenient.
yeah. Go to greenleft.org.au. Read all about it. Tickets are based on income, so like if you don't have much money, you don't have to pay much. Yeah, thank you. Good one. Yeah, this is the event of the year. This is our
Okay, cool.
yeah, and we've got a lot of really exciting people coming along to talk.
Every time you were on the
Yeah, I know. Yeah, oh, great to speak. When does this come out? Hopefully, soon enough.
This
probably,
week, end of the
Sunday,
week.
Monday. Yeah. So anyway, we better finish up. But Felix, thanks for being here today.
I had a great time. Really, really appreciated the invite to be here.
Yeah, thanks for your. Okay.